Singapore, an island paradise off the southernmost tip of the Malay Peninsula, has often been called disproportionately big for its size. In 1965, it was little more than a tiny fishing village with no apparent natural resources and a population of just 2 million people. Yet, in the span of a few decades, this speck of land has grown into one of the world's most prominent financial hubs. Home to over 6 million people and boasting the world's busiest port, the country's improbable rise has left many wondering what makes this city-state so special and how it managed to transform itself from a sleepy fishing village into a global economic powerhouse. To answer that question, we must look back at the leadership of Lee Kuan Yew, the man whom many believe is responsible for creating modern Singapore. In the early 1960s, when Singapore first gained independence from the Dutch, British, and Chinese rulers, it was not poised for greatness. In fact, many experts believe that Singapore had everything stacked against it. It was too small to be taken seriously on the global stage. It lacked natural resources, and it was ethnically and religiously diverse, which made it vulnerable to instability. Despite these challenges, Lee Kuan Yew, the country's prime minister, had a vision for Singapore. He wanted to turn it into a world-class city with a thriving economy and a high standard of living. Lee's first step was to focus on Singapore's location. He knew that the country's strategic location at the heart of Southeast Asia was one of its biggest assets. So he invested heavily in building up its port and making it a hub for international trade. At the same time, he also knew that Singapore needed to be a hub for finance, technology, and services if it was going to thrive, so he started attracting foreign investment by offering generous tax breaks in a business-friendly environment. These efforts paid off handsomely. The port of Singapore quickly became one of the busiest in the world, and foreign companies began to see the Lion City as a hub for their operations in Asia. But Lee didn't stop there. He also knew that to attract top talent and businesses from around the world, Singapore had to offer a high standard of living. And that meant investing in its people through education and training. Lee launched a series of initiatives to improve the quality of education and make it free for all Singaporeans. He also invested heavily in healthcare, housing, and other public services. As the country's economy began to grow, so did the incomes of its people. Today, Singapore is one of the world's most prosperous countries with a GDP per capita of nearly $65,000. That's nearly 10 times higher than the average for developing countries. Of course, none of this would have been possible if not for the leadership of Lee Kuan Yew under his guidance. Singapore went from being a poor, uneducated fishing village to a world-class city with some of the highest standards of living in the world. However, the secret sauce behind Singapore's success is not just about money or education. It's also about instilling a sense of discipline and responsibility among the population. From a young age, Singaporeans are taught to be disciplined and respectful. And this is reflected in the country's low crime rate and high levels of social order. But perhaps the most important lesson for aspiring world-class cities is that size doesn't matter. With a population of just 6 million people, Singapore has shown that it's possible to build a thriving economy and a high standard of living even without abundant natural resources. The country's success has inspired many other small nations to follow in its footsteps, showing that size doesn't define potential. Today, Singapore stands as a shining example of what can be achieved when a nation focuses on its strengths, invests in its people, and embraces a culture of discipline and responsibility. As the city-state continues to grow and evolve, it will undoubtedly face new challenges. But with its strategic location, thriving economy, and highly skilled workforce, Singapore is well positioned to continue leading the way for small nations everywhere. Thank you for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel to stay updated on our latest videos.